There we go.
Excellent. Well, welcome everybody to our workshop. And today we're going to be just sharing our experiences with you of tech and how we've used that in the classroom. So we'll just move on to our first slide and get the introductions out the way first of all. So my name's David Chapple. I've been teaching, this is my 11th year of teaching now, and I'm the lead teacher at Woolden Primary School in Anstey, Leicestershire. I teach year 6 and have predominantly taught in Key Stage 2, and we're a 1-form entry primary school, and yeah, I'm here today to share with you my experiences with Kelly. Kelly, do you want to share and introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, I am Kelly Sims. I'm a year 6 teacher at Asfordby Captain's Close in Melton Mowbray. I teach English, and just like David said, we are working together collaboratively and seeing how we can use OneNote to work together.
Brilliant. So a bit of context then around why we have chosen to collaborate with each other. So as we've mentioned, we're both 1-form entry primary schools, and one of the challenges there can be workload and how you manage that. So we've got an executive head, Sarah Sadler, who has brought the two schools together, and despite us being 20-30 miles apart, we feel like we are connected, and the technology has really enabled us to do that. So what we're going to talk about today and share with you is our experience of collaborating through both Microsoft Teams and also through Microsoft OneNote as well. We're going to talk about how that has enabled us to collaborate effectively, how it has enabled us to reduce our workload, and also how it has enabled us to provide the children with a blended online learning experience. We're just going to sort of take you through that journey today. So first of all, just going to start off with showing you how we've used Microsoft Teams to share our planning. Because in a 1-form entry school, it can be a challenge with you're responsible for all of the planning, and thing that's great about a 2-form entry, 3-form entry school is you can share that. So what we've done as two schools is we've used Microsoft Teams really effectively to collaborate across those two schools. What you can see there on your screen is our Teams page, and we've got the year groups that filter on down the side. So Kelly and I, we're both year 6 teachers, and you can see on the right hand side of the screen there maths and planning. And what's great about Teams is you can use the announcements as threads and conversations, and mine and Kelly's Teams page, we've got maths, planning and English and other subjects, and we have conversation threads there. So if we've spoke about something or shared something, we've always got that to refer to, and we know we can find that conversation, or a lot better than really an email where it might have gone missing or you might have deleted it. So that's how we organize it. And then in the files section in Teams, that's where we sort of arrange our planning. So just a little shot there so you can see. So we just have our planning folder as you would normally in any school, but because it's on Microsoft Teams, we're both able to add to it, share it and access it from anywhere really. So it just means that we're able to share documents really quickly and easily. And as part of that, we're able to work on documents as well together. So we worked together on a long-term plan, medium-term planning. And what's great about Teams is you can open the document in Teams itself and work collaboratively. You know, with the pandemic and not being able to get into schools and see each other and work face to face, it allowed us to be able to be on Teams, working together, planning out our year and planning out our terms really effectively. So we found that Microsoft Teams has been a really effective tool to allow us to work together and sort of sort out our planning. So that really is a bit of a summary of how we have planned together and how that has worked. And I think that has worked really, really effectively. Would you agree, Kelly?
Yes, definitely. This year, we've not actually been together in the same room, have we, Dave? We've done everything remotely, and working together through Teams has definitely worked really well for us.
Well, okay, so we're just going to move on now to OneNote and a bit about Class Notebook, and Kelly's going to talk us through that.
Yes, so setting up your class notebook is fairly simple with working through Teams to get it set up in the initial stages. So thank you, David. So this is my class team, and to set up the class team for my current year sixes, I found the easiest way to do this was to click on the class notebook tab at the top of the screen. And when you click on the class notebook, it comes up with this page, and this just populates the children that you have as your students within that team. So just read through my notes. This will then allow you to open up, if you go on to the next slide for me, David. This will then allow you to open up your populated pages. And once you've created your page through Teams and it's set up each child, you can then use the OneNote app. I found the OneNote app to be a lot more beneficial for the children, and the children have also downloaded the apps from home or in school. And once they're in the OneNote app, they have a lot more features that they can use. But when you've set up your class team, you can go onto your class notebook, which you can see at the top, and then you can also manage your notebooks. Once you manage your notebooks, you can choose which sections and the headings that you want to have. You can add them, you can change them, you can make them work for your class. Thank you, David. So this is a view from what I can see as being the owner of my notebook, and on the right hand side that is what a child can see. So they can only see whatever you upload. So I would choose what lesson I want them to see, and they can open it up on the right hand side. Thanks, David. David, you're on mute. David, you've muted yourself.
Oh, have I? I knew I'd do that.
That whole section, yes.
I knew I'd do that. So yeah, just to sort of echo what Kelly said there in relation to the class notebook, it's a really straightforward way of setting up the OneNote for the children, and you've got full control over the sort of sections that the children are going to have, and it allows you that sort of full control. So in terms of setting that up, that is the easiest way to get them up and running through Teams. So I'm going to just touch upon now how this enables you through OneNote to support children and to remove barriers to learning. Because one thing that I've been particularly pleasantly surprised about really, is how it opens up the learning to all learners and means that they can all access the content. So I'm just going to touch upon a few features within OneNote just to elaborate on that a little bit. So when the children look at the OneNote, they see a page similar to this, and the options at the top they also have as well as you as a teacher. So there are quite a lot of functions within OneNote that allow you to create an immersive experience for the children. And I'm going to talk through a couple of these initially. So we've got here circled on the screen audio and forms. Now what audio is really great at is allowing you to just record some instructions for the children, and I use this with remote learning for the children, and also have used it in the classroom as well. And it just allows you to drop an audio instruction next to a piece of work that the children can listen to and re-listen to if they need to, so they're able to follow those instructions. Now with the audio, you can drop as many audios into the OneNote as you possibly like, really. So if you wanted separate instructions for separate tasks within the work you've set the children, you can do that, and that's allows the children to understand what it is you're asking them to do. Particularly works well with the younger children as well in primary, who maybe can't follow as many instructions, so they're not having that cognitive overload, so it enables you to break it down. Also, there are features such as forms. Now, if you're familiar with Microsoft Forms, it allows you to run quizzes in your lessons, and you get feedback straight away, and you can present that in the form of tables and charts, and it gives you a real good snapshot of the learning, what the children have got from your lesson. And we quite often use it for retrieval at the beginning of a lesson, just to sort of reactivate the learning and get the children to move on. So all you would do is click on those links at the top, and this is sort of how that would look. So this was a lesson I had taught during remote learning, And you can just see there, it's got the audio recording dropped into the OneNote, and you just purely click on that and it will give you those audio instructions for you to listen to. So a really easy and simplistic tool for the children to use. So as I touched upon before, there's Microsoft Forms, and Microsoft Forms go directly onto OneNote. So it's actually embedded within the OneNote, which is fantastic. It means they haven't got to click on a separate link and go anywhere else. So this example here is a lesson that is in the OneNote that I've shared in the chat that I'm going to ask you to have a little look at later. And here you can see a retrieval quiz at the top. So this linked to some history learning that the children had been doing, and it was just a quick quiz at the start of the lesson to gauge the children's understanding. What they're able to do is just quickly click through the multiple choice questions, submit, and then as a teacher you receive that data and you know whether you need to recap or what you need to recap. Similarly, in terms of metacognition and the children being able to understand their own learning, you could drop in a self-assessment, as you can see on the right there. So at Woolden Hill, we use the terms developing, consolidating, mastering and mastered for the children to express how they feel their learning has gone. So at the bottom of the OneNote, they will have the self-assessment form to complete. And that again provides you as a teacher a bit of data. The children don't see the results and they see their own result, but they don't see the class's results, and you know how the learning has gone. So those two tools are really great. And as I mentioned, what's great about OneNote is it embeds them in the page. So it's not a link that's taking you somewhere else or to another page. You can just utilize it within the OneNote. And another great tool that the children have been utilizing really well is through the Draw tab. And it might be in lessons, let's say an English lesson, you want to pick out some key features of a text. This allows you to highlight and use the stylus pens to do so. Now, later on, I'll touch upon the devices that we use, but they have stylus pens in those, and the children have really enjoyed being able to demonstrate their learning in that way. So the children just access that there, and you can see are able to pick out features, for example, as this is a sort of English lesson here. So they were able to do that and see and demonstrate that to me as a teacher. I can go into their OneNote during the lesson and I can see what's going on, see how the learning is going, offer them feedback during the lesson. So that tool works really, really well. What Kelly and I have found is actually when you get the children to use OneNote for the first time, allow them plenty of conversations, because they become the experts and they figure out how to change the colours or change the thickness of the pens, and they enjoy that part of it as well. And I think that's been really great for them to explore that and find out what are the limitations of OneNote as well. So that has been Forms, the audio and the Draw. But one of my favorite features, and particularly for breaking down those barriers, is the immersive reader. Now, if you use Microsoft Edge or any of the Microsoft packages for that matter, you might have noticed immersive reader on there. So if you use Microsoft Edge as your internet, then you'll see it at the top and it works on PDFs, etc. Now, what's great about this is the children can use this immersive reader tab. So it's not necessarily as a teacher that I need to be putting this in or concerned with it, but you need to signpost it for the children so they can see, actually, I can use this immersive reader tab. And what it does is it reads information to the children. So like with the audio, you've got those instructions you want the children to follow. Actually, you could use immersive reader, or the children could, should I say, and it will break down the text on the page and it will read it to you. And there are options that the children can explore, and it will change the colour of that. It will break it down so it's just one sentence at a time focusing on. So really, really great tool for those children who have a barrier to their learning is perhaps reading and literacy in general, because if you've got a science lesson or a geography lesson, you don't want your children to be held back because of their difficulties with reading. And this means that that barrier is taken away and they can focus on demonstrating their geographical knowledge, their scientific knowledge, and that doesn't impede the learning. So this, particularly with a small group of children within our 4, 5, 6 classes at Woolden Hill have used this quite a lot in those lessons where the reading isn't the focus, but they need to have an understanding of a primary source in history, or they need to understand a map. So a really, really useful tool, and I think something that will hopefully adapt and become even more useful to the children moving forward. So with that, you can also change the pages. Now, in schools, we're mindful of children with dyslexia and their needs, and putting over, overlays for books or different colour paper in their books. So OneNote's just really simple. You can see it on there. It says page colour, tab it down, change the colour for the children. Works really, really well. So I think what I have found as I've come to use OneNote is actually it helps remove those barriers to learning for the children. It provides them a different way of responding to the learning, and I've found that they've engaged with the lessons really, really well, because they can be a bit more involved on their devices as they go along. And I'll show you a bit later some lesson shots and how that works. Okay, so we're just going to move on to Kelly, who's going to talk you through how you actually assign the work to the children.
Yes, so there are a couple of ways that we have worked out how to actually assign the work through Teams and OneNote, and I'm going to talk through them now with you. So if you could skip on for me, David. Thank you. So what I've got here is, this is my class team, and I've gone onto the assignments tab at the top. What that does is it then brings you onto this page here, and it asks you to create an assignment. And when you click on create an assignment, it will ask you here to create your new assignment and add in your title if you want to add any instructions. But what we want to do is we want to add a resource. When you click on add resource, it will bring up this section here. And what we want to do is we want to click on our class notebook, because that's where we're going to take our work from. And it will then bring up these drop down sections, and I'm going to click on my lessons that I've created. Then it takes you on to another section, and it will ask you what subject. So here I've clicked on English, and it will bring down all of the different lessons that you have got in that English section. And then once you've found your piece of work that you want to attach, it will then ask you whereabouts you want it to be uploaded onto your student's OneNote. What section will it go into? So again, I've clicked on English Spring 1, and when you click done, it will add it onto the assignment tab, and then you can assign it to a specific date. You can set it to be in a few days' time, and also what channel you would want it to go in as well. Another way of uploading your OneNotes is by using the OneNote app and using the class notebook tab at the top, and then this distribute page section. You can distribute the page to the whole class. You can distribute it to an individual student. You can also distribute it to a group of children if it's a specific piece of work that you only want to go to a set group. That is a great tool to use. Thanks, David. Okay, when you click on distribute, whichever section you want to do, whether it's individual, group, or for the whole class, it will then ask you whereabouts you want it to go, just like on Teams, and then you click the section that you want to distribute it to.
Excellent, thank you, Kelly. So that just gives you an idea of how you set that up, and different teachers within our schools have used different methods in which to do so. Some choose the assignments tab because the children are able to access that easier, and others prefer just distributing that page through OneNote, and that works really well for them. I think what I would say is spend a bit of time just training the children up. When our children were quite good from the remote learning, but then when we came back to school, we got all the devices out and we spent time just talking through OneNote, what it looks like, what they're going to see, so they were able to access. And we're at a point now, I feel, where if we've got a lesson in the afternoon, we start at 1:10, by 1:15, everyone's on the OneNote and they're ready to go and the lesson's ready to start. So it's just really about training the children how to access that and how to get on it. But yeah, either way is a good way of sharing it with them, and it's important to think about how you want to organise those OneNotes, as Kelly mentioned, in terms of we've gone for autumn 1, autumn 2, spring 1, spring 2, summer 1, summer 2 for each of the subjects that we teach, and put them into those sections accordingly. We tend to use the date and the learning question that we have, so the children can access it and know when it's being taught. So that sort of gives you a flavour of the children and how to set it for them. I'm just going to touch upon how we use OneNote to share our resources. So at the start of the session, I mentioned to you about using Microsoft Teams to share the actual planning, but we create OneNote pages for the children to do their learning. And we came up with a bit of a problem, really, because we are 2 different schools. We were unable to just share our class notebook with each other because of GDPR. So what we decided to do, because OneNote is quite versatile, is to just set up our own OneNote, because actually you can have as many notebooks as you like there. So you can just see a few of mine there. I've got the Year 6 resources, which I'm going to talk about now, where I've just got my general class one there, English one, and I use OneNote to make notes myself in meetings, and you can just have as many as you like, really. So what we did is we set up the Year 6 resources, and we just shared it between Kelly and I. I've also had a student in this year, so we've shared the notebook with him as well, just like I've shared it with you today in the chat. So you just go onto the top, share notebook, and there's a link in there, or you can send it via an email. So quite easy to do. And what that allows you to do is to share the workload of who's going to create which notebooks for which subject. So just like you would delegate the planning, really. So this is a shot from when we were remote learning. So we've not tended to use OneNote too much for maths since we've returned to school, and same really for English. We've used it for all of our what we would say our topic lessons, geography and science, that aren't practical. But obviously when we were remote learning, all of our lessons were via OneNote. So what we've done, as we mentioned there, we've got the sections that run down the left hand side, that are spring 1, spring 2, for our subjects. We color coded them as well to make it just a bit easier for us, and then we use the section next to it to describe the unit, so you can see algebra there, week 4, week 5, and then made sub pages for the individual lessons. So what we would do is, let's say Kelly was planning maths at that time, is she would create all of the OneNotes for maths and I would do English, and that reduced that workload greatly, and it just had this sort of central place where we could go to and pick out those resources. And the great thing with OneNote is it's just really simple to use, and then you can use it across many devices as well. And actually I find that on my phone is the easiest way to copy and move things about. So I access it through my phone to move files around, but it's still very, very easy to do on iPads, desktops, laptops, all of that sort of thing. And there are versions of the app, so you can go on the desktop app, you can go on it in the browser. There's also OneNote 2016. They all have slightly different features, I think, but all of them are great. So what we would do is, once you've seen this here, is you just simply right click, copy, and paste it, and you just paste it into your class OneNote there. So okay, let's nip back a slide. So I would copy it from Year 6 resources, paste it into my OneNote, into my teacher section, and then I could distribute that to my students. So it just meant that it was really, really easy to use. So that hopefully gives you a sort of understanding of how we've used that. I just want to touch upon now a little bit about our teaching and learning, specifically using this. Now, at the start of the year, Kelly and I were trialing out how I or Kelly could teach each other's class. So we've used Teams to do that. So I'm just going to show you an example now here. So what you're looking at there is Kelly's class, and I'm on the Teams call teaching, and Kelly's just in the class. Now, we appreciate that the tech side of things requires lots of CPD and lots of time in order to do that. So what we have been able to do is here I'm able to teach Kelly's class, and Kelly can have a support staff in class, and it frees her up to maybe do some mech training, which then she can share with me. So we found that worked really well. Kelly, did you want to mention how you found it as at the other end of this lesson?
Yes, so I was stood at the back. I wanted to observe how this was going to happen with my support staff in the room. It worked really well. The children could answer questions. They actually felt like David was in the room with us, and they were answering questions, whatever David asked, and my support staff would pick children to respond. Yeah, they really enjoyed it, and they just wanted to know when we were going to do it again.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kelly. And what we've really tried to create is this sense of unity with our two classes. And tomorrow's last day of term for us, and we're actually doing World War II Day, and we're going to be doing a big quiz at the end of the day to sort of consolidate all of that learning, but we're just going to do it as one big group, so we sort of all feel united. And I think that the technology has really supported us to be able to do that. Without Teams, without OneNote, we certainly wouldn't have been able to do any of this. So that's that sort of remote teaching from me to Kelly's class. I've also done it as well, where I've been remote teaching my class and Kelly's class, which again worked really, really well. But since we've returned after the lockdown period, we've used devices in the classroom. So what you can see here is all of the children with a device. So they've got I think that Acer is the name of the company that make them, but they're really good because they're laptops, but they're also tablets as well. And I have to say, I was a bit concerned when one of the children got one and started doing all of this with it and moving it around. I thought, oh, crikey, you're going to break that. But they're great with it. So they got the technology, got up on OneNote. Now you can see here, you've got their OneNote is open. She's got a stylus pen ready to go, and she can respond to the learning that's going on. So we've got the same thing on the screen at the front. Now, what I have found in particular in these lessons is the children are more involved because they can respond to the learning as they're going. So you're not faced with any situations where you need to get one child up at the front to maybe move something on the board or anything like that. They can actually all be involved, and you can see it real time. Now, the great thing with OneNote in terms of, live marking, in the moment feedback, you don't want to spend ages at the end looking through these, is as a teacher, you can access the OneNote during the lesson and see what they're getting up to. And I found that my class were always, oh, Mr. Chapple, will you have a look at my OneNote, please? I've just done this, or I've written this, or I've edited this. Can you have a look? And I'd be able to nip in and use the features in OneNote. You can give them praise through things like stickers and rewards, and they get that in the moment feedback that they absolutely love. So we've found that it's been really, really successful. Now, by no means am I saying that this is great for every lesson. As I touched upon before, we've really, in maths, we're still in our books, in English, largely still in our books. Although, if we're doing a features lesson or something like that, that could be used on your OneNote, or a planning lesson, and you can have your book in front of you to write. Certainly, it has its uses there. So you can see there just a little bit of a close-up there. So children accessing the features on there. So using the stylus pens and working through and being able to make, I guess, decisions about how they're going to sort information and how they're going to present their work, really. So what we've found is we're testing it out at the moment and seeing what works, but that blended approach for particular subjects has really enhanced the learning experience for the children. So I guess to summarize OneNote itself and what we've found, there are challenges around training to adults as well as children. So making sure, first of all, when we were remote learning, that the adults supporting at home, parents, carers, were clued up on OneNote and how to use it and how to support the children. And, you know, actually we did have a bit of pushback initially with that, but once we talked it through with parents and we created a little guide on how to access everything, we found that they loved it because they could access the work and submit it really easily. You know, the challenges of change, because technology can be scary and it does go wrong sometimes, and that can be something that makes members of staff, teachers a bit wary around it. You know, what if the internet goes down, or what if they can't log in, what if the laptops don't work? And it's just about having those champions within your school to really push it and promote it and see the impact to bring others along. Of course, technology. Now, you could see from the previous slides that my whole class have got devices, and they appreciate that that is a big investment to make. But we found that it really enhances the learning experience. I think you might, I'm not sure whether it was this morning or not, I had a keynote from Sentry, and we use that in class to support our math learning, and the children can follow their pathway on Sentry, and that enhances their learning experience in maths. So they can access all kinds of different applications as well. So on the flip side of that, we're not having to print so much. We're not having to print things to go into books or worksheets, or actually use as many books, because we can use OneNote for that. And that's one of our benefits. So we found, obviously, as we've touched upon lots today, the collaboration between us, it's allowed us to work together. It's allowed us to have better lessons for our pupils, because we were able to work together and create resources and have the time to do so. It's simple for assignments. If children are working from home, as Kelly touched upon, if you set them an assignment with the OneNote, they can just do it on the OneNote and submit the assignment. So if you've got children maybe isolating, working from home, they don't have to write something down, take a photo of it, attach it, and then send it to you. They just merely edit that OneNote document, and then it's submitted, and you can see how they've got on. Functionality, as we've touched upon, fantastic. So being able to use immersive reader. Pardon?
Sorry, I was going to add, I actually have a child isolating at the moment, and yeah, it's been brilliant this week for them to access the lessons and actually feel like they're here at school as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, so that's not going to go away, is it, that in terms of children having to isolate? So it allows you, and actually if you're already using OneNote, you're not creating extra resources for that pupil, you just assign them the OneNote as with everybody else, and they respond to it at home. So that functionality is great to allow all learners to access. It's helped reduce our workload and provides us that opportunity to mark as we go along. So we've spoke at you for quite a while, I do appreciate. So I'd like to sort of maybe pause and reflect a little bit and give you the opportunity to maybe ask any questions that you have. I'm quite happy to field these in the chat, or if you'd like, you know, to unmute your microphone and ask away. We'll do our best to answer. So yeah, we'll sort of throw it out to you if you've got any questions at this stage. I think I've stunned everyone into silence. I think that's what I've probably done here. Okay, well, I'll leave that sort of request open. Please do ask away or ask any questions around it. More than happy to. Okay, has the whole school taken the approach? Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, good question there, because obviously we understand that. Well, I've said this to Kelly recently. I feel like as Year 6 teachers, we've got the children at that perfect age where actually they want to learn and they want to engage with the technology. So I think we've had it easy in that respect, but we have used it all the way down to Year 2 in our schools, and it's taken a lot more training of the Year 2s to access it, but they have been able to engage with the devices as well.
It is. No, it's fine. I've already rung back. Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully that answers your question there, Rachel. No, they don't, and this was something that came about from lockdown, where we did have to loan devices and sort of sign contracts. So the children will get the device, and then that will follow them through school. So let's say they get a device in year 2, it follows them through to year 6, and then it will just go back down to year 2, and it sort of goes on that cycle like that. So we are in the process of ordering some trolleys, so we'll keep the devices in the trolleys, which will charge them. At the moment it's great because they hold charge quite well, so it works and we don't have to charge them quite often. So we're getting the trolleys in because we know that obviously won't happen moving forward. So we wouldn't allow the children at this stage anyway to take devices home. That would just be something if a child is isolating, doesn't have access to a device at home, we would loan one to a child so they could remotely be involved in the lesson that way. Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. Any other questions at all at this stage? Brill. Okay, that's great. So what we really wanted, Ronnie, your hand's up. Have you got a question, Ronnie?
I have, sorry, I wouldn't know where to start to type this question, so I thought it was easier to ask you. No we've just started setting up our OneNote system within our school, and one of the difficulties we're finding is once we've set up the initial tab, then to kind of have the subgroups, if you like, below it is causing a problem for us, because you almost have to do it in reverse, don't you, in terms of how you set those tabs up. I just wondered if you'd found any quick ways around that, or anything yourself of how you do it.
So I think Kelly, I think the best way would be that the slide that was to manage it. Do you want to explain that a little bit? So I'll go back to it and do it, because when you set up your class notebook,
quite tricky as well, didn't we?
Oh, did you? That's good to hear.
We did initially. I'm
yeah.
trying to find.
Yeah, no, we did. We found it difficult.
We find the right one. Here, that one.
Yes. So what we first did is we set up the subjects that are on the right hand side. So we set up the student subjects.
Yeah.
But for us as teachers to set it up for ourselves, what we did is if you look on the left hand side, there would be my subjects that I've set up. So I would create what I wanted to be at the top, so spring 1, and then underneath you would add a page, and then if you right click on it, it asks you if you want to make it a sub page or prioritize it, and they move across. And the best way to do is to add another page, and to move them, you do have to move them individually, though. That's the only downside to that.
Kelly, can I just interrupt? If
yeah, of course.
Where it says English, where you've got your colour-coded headers.
Yes.
We were taught to go to the bottom and add a section at that point to add summer 1, summer 2.
Yeah.
And that's where we're running into difficulties. So are you suggesting then that instead of adding a section subgroup at that stage, you add a page and then add subgroups within your pages? Is that what you're saying?
I would add the sections on the left-hand side, so where the colour-coded subjects are.
Yeah.
And then once you click on that subject, then it will bring the section on the right-hand side up. Right. So where it's got the spring 1.
Let me just share my screen, Ronnie, and that might help us out a little bit. So can you see that OneNote now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So if I was to add a section here, for English, then within that you can use these here. So let's say I was teaching a narrative, and then I can add a page here, and if I right click on it, it has this option to make it a sub page. It goes underneath. So that could say be week 1, and then you can add another page and make that also a sub page, and that could be lesson 1. for example.
Right, that's brilliant. I think where we are going wrong is we're trying to do everything under English, subgroups under English, saying week 1 or spring 1, spring 2, etc. But now that makes sense to do it that way, because what we found was when we tried to add them underneath English, if you like, it gave us an extra group as well, and we kept having to delete groups and things, but obviously it's because we were doing it wrong.
That's
definitely
okay. Thank you.
But if you ever need any help, do email across and I'm happy to support with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Kelly. Thanks, David.
That's okay, no problem, Ronnie. So yeah, it's that organisation side of it, I think, which can be a little bit of a challenge initially. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. How does licensing work? Is there a significant cost? Microsoft licensing as well as device purchase and costs. I wouldn't be sure on the licensing cost for Microsoft. So we use Microsoft 365, don't we, Kelly? So that's the package that we use, and that's what the children have access to. So I can certainly get back to you on that, Rachel, in terms of an answer to that question. So leave that one with me. I think that the devices that we bought were around £200, and they work really, really well. And we understand it's a big cost involved in that. And so at Captain's, Kelly, you've not got them for each class yet, have you? It's something you're sharing.
No, we will be though soon, hopefully in the next month or 2.
Because I think that's the biggest thing with it, is that cost and making sure that you're getting the return for that. But we've certainly found that it's really helped with that. Yes, they're Acer devices. I'm not sure of the actual.
I can go grab one in a moment. I'll go and grab one off the.
Oh, you're in school.
I'm in school
there, so you can see them. So I can just drop an image in the chat. So we've got, that's what it looks like open, Rachel. So you can see that there. But Kelly's in school, so she'll be able to nip over and grab one. I think what we'd like to do now is just give you the opportunity to have a look through that OneNote and interact with it. Now, what we would like you to do is to go onto the OneNote link, and not to click on and edit the lessons that are already here, but to please add a section at the bottom. So I've already tried this a couple of times, so I'll do David again, David 1. And that will create a section for me. Then if I go into lessons, this is the best way that we could figure it out, wasn't it, Kelly, to make sure it worked? Yes. Copy the lesson and paste it into your section. Then you can see it in there. And then you can just, what we really wanted you to try and have a go at is just interacting with the OneNote. Now, one thing to do is, you'll notice it's not a full page. To make it a full page, if you just click on what looks like a stack of books there, it makes it full page for you. And then that will take it back like that. So you can sort of tab between those like that. So we just wanted to give you now maybe 10 minutes or so, just having a look at that. And, you know, once you've got the lesson in as well, maybe have a little look at the features at the top, see if you can, you know, on a blank page, you might want to see if you could add something in or add some audio in, just if you've never used this before, just to give you that chance to do so. And I'll stop sharing for now. So I guess what we'll do is we'll just turn off our cameras and mute to allow everybody to have a play with that, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes, and that hope might give you a bit of time to grab one of those devices, Kelly, and then we can share that. Brill. Okay, so we're just going to mute and camera off, and we'll be back with you in 10 minutes. So have a little play with that, and then if you've got any questions from that, we can field those as well. Okay. Hi everybody. Hopefully you've managed to have a little bit of a go. I will go on to them and sort of show them and talk you through them in a moment, just for anybody who maybe couldn't get on or had difficulties for whatever reason. Did you manage to track one of the
yes,
the devices down, Kelly?
Yeah, I've got one next to me. I've also put in the chat a link to the website, the ASA website, which actually shows you a bit more about the laptops too. We put it in there now.
Perfect. Thanks, Kelly. Great. So that link's there for you, Rachel. So hopefully you can have a look at that. That might help you. I mean, we found they've been really great and really versatile. You found the same, Kelly, at Captain's
Yeah,
Close?
Definitely. The children love them, that they can change them into a tablet and that they do have a pen function. It suits every child, whichever way they prefer to learn.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Okay, so what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to share, because we've got what 10 minutes left. I'm just going to share my screen and go over those OneNotes just to sort of show you how the children could interact with them and how they could use them. So just going to share my screen. That brilliant. So let me go full screen. So here we've got an English lesson. Another thing with OneNote, its size, it just expands and expands and expands. So there's no sort of limit. It's not like a Word document or anything like that. And you can embed things. So, you know, this is just a little bit of a starter for the children. There's an instruction up there, but you can use Immersive Reader on the View tab to read that to you if you would like it read to you. And then this is a lesson on using the book The Lion and the Unicorn. And what I was able to do is take some snips of the book, and then you can insert a PDF. But again, as I mentioned before, it doesn't just insert it and then you have to open it in a separate document. It embeds it into the OneNote, so you can then actually go through that. And the children can access that and read that. And then over the other side of the OneNote, we've got some activities for the children to complete. Now here they could double click on it and insert some text and sort of drag that next to the right answer. They could use their stylus pen to respond to that, and the same here when they're actually come to planning out their description of Lenny from The Lion and the Unicorn. So it enables you to get the children to work through that. So that's a lesson you could have up on your board and the children are following it along as they go. Or if you've got, you know, the instructions, the more independent learners in your class could actually just follow that through quite straightforwardly. And then there was a maths example. So again, similar here, we've got a sort of reactivating of learning, so 4 questions to start off with and the time on the clock. And then in terms of equations, if the children wanted a guide, if you wanted them to go away independently rather than have the main input from the teacher, you can embed a video so they could watch that. Really good for remote learning, but also if you want to set a group off and work maybe on something else or support another group, it allows a bit of versatility as well, so they can move on with their learning and then sort of access the lesson from there. And again, we've got here a question that the children can respond to. That's a quick win for teachers in terms of gaining whether the children have understood it or not. So you can get an understanding of how the children have got on there. So that, again, that's a maths example. And then just finally, the history example that we had. Just show you through. So I've done something slightly different here, as I've actually put the whole lesson onto the OneNote. So we've got the retrieval quiz to start with, the children respond to and submit their answers. We've got a YouTube video which is embedded into the OneNote. So it's really good for that sort of thing, because we've got restrictions obviously within school for YouTube. So if you embed it into OneNote, they can watch it. Whereas if you maybe ask them to go onto YouTube on the devices and watch it, they probably wouldn't have not been able to go onto it and watch it. So that gets around that barrier. And then this here, the lesson has been put onto, it was a OneNote, so the children can go through the information. There's an audio recording next to this here to give them an instruction on what to do here. And then there's the task and the forms at the bottom, and at the top there was a information they needed to complete that bar chart there to do with evacuation. So we just wanted you to be able to access and look at those few examples so you could see how easy it is to use OneNote and how easy it is to sort of move things across. You literally insert things or use a snipping tool and drop them in, and it's quite easy to then, you know, I could move this around if I wanted to quite easily. I can change the size of it, and it's just really easy to manipulate and use. So, you know, really useful tool. Right, let me just unshare then. I suppose that brings us to, I think, everything that we wanted to share today, didn't it, Kelly? Which we've got.
Yes. Yeah.
We've got 7 minutes or so. If there are any other questions or anything else anybody would like to discuss.
The thing that I've really enjoyed about OneNote as well is being able to go into the children's workbooks whilst they're working and to interact with them via being on a team like this right now, like what you was just doing a minute ago, David, sharing your screen, and to have those conversations with the children whilst they're working. If they do need a bit of extra support and you've got them in a breakout room, it's perfect for that. Yeah,
and I would just say thank you for that, Ronnie, because I would just say that if you want to see any practice using these devices, if you get in touch with Joe, I'm sure we can, you know, arrange something. I know obviously, you know, with COVID, it's difficult to get into schools, but would quite happily do some, you know, short recording or something like that to get you in the lessons and get you, if you want to see what does an actual lesson look like with these devices. That's certainly something that I'd be happy to set up and arrange, because, you know, we can talk about it, but actually then seeing it is different, and you can see what that actually is going to look like in a school, in a lesson, and how the children respond to it. So you know, I'm sure if you were to get in touch, I would happily certainly do that. Great. Okay then, guys. So I guess we're happy to end that there. So you're free to leave this meeting. If anyone wants to hang around at the end, if you wanted to ask a question and do that, that's fine. We'll sort of hang around in here for the next few minutes or so. But yeah, thank you for listening to us. You're free to go.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I'll stop recording as well, David.